What is going on YouTube? I'm Lamont at large. Today I am at the Pine Hill Cemetery here in Burlington, North Carolina. Here to talk about a woman by the name of Blanche Taylor Moore. She's 89 years old and she's on death row. So who exactly is Blanche Taylor Moore? Many of you out there watching this video probably know who she is already, but for those out there who do not know who she is, allow me to try and quickly explain this woman and her story. So Blanche was born February 17th, 1933 here in North Carolina to Flonnie Blanche and Parker David Kisser, the Kissers, okay? Her father, Parker, was a mill worker and an ordained Baptist minister. This man was good at the following things: preaching the word of God, drinking alcohol into a drunken stupor, and having sex with women who was not his wife. Very good at that. He loved fornication. Moving past that, Blanche moves out of the household. She probably can't wait to get away from her cheating, drunken father. She goes out in the world, and around the age of 19 or so, she meets a man by the name of James Napoleon Taylor. Seems like a nice guy. He's a World War II vet, and he does furniture restoration for a living. They get married. They have a couple daughters. She feels the need to go out and get a job. Maybe furniture restoration doesn't pay the bills. So she goes out, she gets a job at Kroger as a cashier. And she was a pretty good worker. She worked there for quite a number of years. In her first 5 years, she made it all the way up to head cashier. She's working her way up in the company, but you can't work your way up too high in that company. Back in the days, men felt that a woman's place was, behind the register. You can't be a manager, you're a woman. So she was never really able to go up higher than head cashier. So while she's at work, she starts flirting with this man who worked there. He was the manager of the store, named Raymond Reed. He looked at Blanche, and I guess he liked what he seen, and maybe she had an itch that poor old James couldn't scratch very good. So they ended up having an affair. It was, I guess you would call it an on-again, off-again affair for many, many years. Hot and heavy times in the Baptist South, if I do say so myself. Now, sadly, Blanche's father died of a heart attack back in, I believe, 1966. Very, very sad time having to bury, your father. Died pretty young. It was an unexpected heart attack. So she continues this affair with Raymond Reed for quite a number of years. And then, sadly, James had I guess you call it a massive heart attack. He died on October the 2nd, 1973. It's very, very sad. But, oh well, now she gets to carry on with Raymond Reed. So they hook up, doing whatever it is that they do. So after James dies of a massive heart attack, leaving two daughters without a father and Blanche as a widow, still working at Kroger, still a head cashier, she starts dating Raymond Reed. I guess you could say that he became somewhat of a father figure in her daughters' lives. And everything is going fine. They're not married. She probably doesn't want to do that again. And then Raymond starts getting sick, starts getting stomach problems, starts developing some kind of hives on his skin. And as he's getting sicker, so is Blanche, but just in a different way. Enter Robert Hutton, who was the regional manager of Kroger. Now, we're in the mid-'80s now, so she's been working at Kroger for quite some time now, well over 25 years. So she's working at Kroger one day, and they start fooling around. Well, it depends on what story you want to believe. He would call it, she wanted it, and she would say, he sexually harassed me. She runs out of the store screaming bloody murder, quits her job, files a lawsuit with Kroger saying this guy sexually harassed me. I am absolutely devastated. I've never been touched like that ever in my life. So court proceedings go on, months and months and months and months. Eventually down the road, they settle out of court, and she gets about $275,000. She was so devastated by being sexually harassed by Robert Hutton, she was no good. She was no good for any man. She couldn't have relations with her boyfriend anymore. That was over and done with because he's dead. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention that in the story. Yeah, Raymond Reed, he died. Yeah, what happened was he started getting really sick. He was getting intestinal problems, diarrhea. He started developing hives on his skin. Yeah, so he goes to the hospital, and they're looking at him, and they can't really figure out what's going on with him. And one of the doctors, they diagnose him with Guillain-Barré syndrome. It's a form of, I believe, hives. And he's getting sicker and sicker. He's suffering from multiple organ failure. And on October 7th, 1986, he dies. And Blanche is absolutely shattered. She's absolutely heartbroken. Now, when he died, one of the resident doctors, he wanted to go ahead and do a toxicology report. But just by coincidence, on that very day he ordered the report, he was being transferred, I believe, to either another hospital or he got a job at another hospital. And they never did the toxicology reports, but it doesn't matter because he died of Guillain-Barré syndrome. And that's that. Now, Blanche, not only has she lost a husband, now she lost Raymond. She lost her boyfriend. Very, very sad days in her life. So while Blanche is dealing with the death of her boyfriend, Raymond, she's also at that time dealing with the Kroger lawsuit. During the lawsuit with Kroger, before she got the $275,000, she meets another man, and she likes this guy, Reverend Dwight Moore, a man of the church. My father was a man of the church until he died of a heart attack. He died very, very young. She really, really likes Reverend Dwight. He's a pretty good singer. He's not bad looking. She's smitten. So they start dating, and they get married on April 19th, 1989. And they go on their honeymoon, their vacay. But they had to cut it short. You see, Dwight started coming down with some very, very severe intestinal problems. Anything you can think of with the stomach was going on with him. He had severe diarrhea. He had very bad vomiting. Well, actually, the doctor said it was projectile vomiting. Immediately, when they get back to North Carolina, she takes her hubby, Dwight. They had only been married now, 10, 11 days? She rushes him to the hospital. Oh my God, my husband, he's sick. He's vomiting and diarrhea, and it's all bad. Everything is bad. So they get him to the hospital, and this guy is looking like he's not going to make it. Multiple organ failure, vomiting, diarrhea. His extremities are. He's losing sensation in his arms and his legs. He's developing necropathy. Hopefully I said that word correctly. So the doctors are looking at this guy and they're asking Blanche, like, we suspect that he's been, did he eat something? Like they're kind of wondering what's going on. So they said, did he like eat something? Did you guys go out to a restaurant that you guys normally don't go to? And she says, well, in the garden, he was using herbicide. I guess you use that to kill whatever insects or pests in the yard. And they're like, okay. But they're looking up, herbicide and possible problems that you might have. Doesn't really fit what's going on with Dwight. So one of the doctors, he orders a toxicology test. And when the test came back, it's really, really weird, but there's arsenic in his blood. But a very dangerous amount of arsenic, 20 times the amount of arsenic that would kill a person. So thinking about that, this person should have died. So how do you ingest arsenic? How does that work? How does one ingest arsenic? It's not something that you could just accidentally mix in with your Kool-Aid and drink it down. So arsenic, originally when it was discovered, it was used in the process of making bronze because it would make that metal harder. Now, as time went on and chemists would, somehow synthesize arsenic, a lot of people in the Victorian times would use arsenic, or what's called white arsenic. They would mix it with, I believe, vinegar and other stuff to lighten their complexion. That way, back in the 1780s, it was often deemed very regal or royal, or you were an upper class person if you had very light skin. That meant that you didn't do field work. You always stayed in the house away from the sun. So lighter skin was deemed a byproduct of beauty, if you will. And white arsenic would often be used in pigments. Don't quote me on this, possibly some makeups. And then, however, when it was quickly found out that arsenic is a very, very dangerous poison, they stopped using it in those products, but then they started using it in pesticides, I believe, which is what arsenic is generally used for. Anyways, so when the doctors got back the toxicology report and showed the level of arsenic that was in Dwight's system, immediately the hospital contacted detectives. So they get out, they're talking to the doctors, they get a quick history lesson of what arsenic is, and they're going back in her history. Well, she had a boyfriend that died, Raymond Reed. He died of Guillain-Barré syndrome. And then she had a husband, James Taylor, but he died of a massive heart attack. Now, you had a husband, a boyfriend, and a husband. They all got sick. They were all in the hospital. 2 of them died, and this one looks like he's on his way out. Something's going on here. So immediately, they said, you know what? We're going to exhume Raymond Reed and James Taylor. We're going to check their bodies for any levels of arsenic, because believe it or not, if you are poisoned with arsenic, it will still be in your body many, many years later after you're exhumed. This is the grave of James Napoleon Taylor, U.S. Army, World War II. Thank you for your service, sir. And so they come to this grave right here. They exhume him. They take his body back to the medical examiner's office for, I don't believe you call that an autopsy, but I believe you would call that something else. And what do you know it? There's a high level of arsenic in James Here's body. Interesting. So as the report comes back about poor James and the highly elevated levels of arsenic in his body, detectives start going back into Blanche's financial records, Raymond's records, so forth and so on. And they find a very peculiar bit of evidence. It looks like for Raymond's pension, she had forged some documents making her the payee of his pension while he was still alive. That's kind of odd, right? Doesn't take a person with an IQ under 80 to figure out what's going on here. This broad she's killing these people. It's not looking good for old Blanche there. And as the detectives are building their case against Blanche, the second exhumation takes place of Raymond Reed right here. And wouldn't you know it, a high level dosage of arsenic was found in this man's body right here. In the same cemetery. So now we have a woman who looks like she likes to kill the men that she's sleeping with. Very, very interesting. We better move fast. There could be another one on her list, boys. On July 18th, 1989, Blanche Taylor Moore is arrested and charged with the murders of James Taylor, her ex-husband, and her ex-boyfriend, Raymond Reed. When they go to trial, it starts around October, I believe 21st of 1990. She's going on trial first for the murder of Raymond Reed. Now, a lot of times if there's a person that has committed multiple murders, they won't put them on trial for both murders together. They'll just do separate trials. Makes sense, because if you get off on the first trial, well, then they got a second chance of the other trial. So October 21st, 1990, she goes on trial for the murder of, again, Raymond Reed. And it doesn't take the jury very long to come up with a verdict. November 14th, the jury goes in for deliberations, and they find her guilty of the crime of murder. The 17th, they all agree that she should die for her crimes via lethal injection here in the state of North Carolina. And on January the 17th, 1991, the judge agrees with the jury's verdict and sentences Miss Moore to die by lethal injection. Well, it's been quite some time since she was sentenced to death. It's been about 30 years. And now she is 89 years old. And she sits on death row, and probably, in my opinion, she's never going to get executed. I mean, who's going to execute a woman who's almost 90? Anyways, currently, right now, I am in a different location. The sun is going down. I'm in Mebane, North Carolina. This is the Oakwood Cemetery. So why am I here? Why did I go from Pine Hill Cemetery, drive 15 miles down the way to Oakwood Cemetery? Well, I was here to visit Parker Davis Kisser. That was the philandering husband, the father of Miss Moore, right? So why would I want to visit his grave? Well, you see, when the detectives were exhuming Raymond Reed and James Taylor, when they were looking at her father, Parker Davis Kisser, who died of a heart attack, they said, well, let's exhume him too. And they exhumed him, and guess what? Guess what was in his body? Yes, I'll give you a hint. It rhymes with arsenic. However, they did not charge her with that murder. Now, I've been looking all over this cemetery for about the last 45 minutes. The sun is going down, and sadly, my mission will not be complete. I was unable to find his grave. He is buried by himself, I believe. His wife, Blanche Taylor Moore's mother, is buried back at the Pine Hill Cemetery down yonder. And as I hear the sweet sounds of gunfire coming from those woods over there, I will bid you adieu. I'm out of here, guys. I'm heading towards Durham. I got a unsolved murder to go vlog via my TikTok. If you guys ever go on TikTok, please give my TikTok a follow. I know many of you guys think TikTok is stupid. I'm trying to make it not stupid. I'm starting to put some unsolved murders on there, videos that, only need to be a couple minutes. And with that being said, I will catch up with you on the next vlog. Have a good day, guys. I'll see you on the next one. Peace out.